Hello my dear YouTuber friends, and I do hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video. I'm with Sim Update 9. I do have a flight in progress there on my Series S. With Sim Update 9, Reactivity Extremity Dead Zone, all sensitivities seem to be saving now with the Velocity 1 flight. And I've tested this, I've saved them, unplugged my Xbox, plugged it back in, turned it back on. Reactivity Extremity Dead Zones, all the sensitivities seem to be saving with the Velocity 1 flight, and at least the Series S, likely the Series X as well. So I'm going to show you all my sensitivities in this video, and all the settings I've got set up with the Velocity 1 flight. It's only been around 6 months, but at last the Velocity 1 seems to be fully implemented with the Xbox consoles. So let's not hesitate, let's get on with this video. Okay, so I'm set up at my usual location, runway 27 at London City Airport in a Cessna 172. Now let's go to the options and control options. And you can see I've got my Velocity 1 set up there and my autopilot profile. Let's just go to sensitivities. And I'll talk you through these one by one. We've got my rudder axis there, rudder 2, that's my trigger rudders. I've just kept about sensitivity minus and plus sensitivities minus 25%. So in the minus and plus sensitivities, minus 25%. I put no reactivity in them. I didn't feel I need to. They seem to be behaving, and the rudder triggers are adaptive. So I just didn't feel I needed to put any reactivity or extremity dead zone in there. You play around with it, see how it suits you, but minus 25% in both the minus and plus, as it is, just seems to suit me fine with the trigger rudders. Axis 3 there, that's a pitch axis, so as I pitch up and down with my yoke. Minus 42% in both the minus and plus sensitivities. That's the better way of saying it, isn't it? So minus 42% in both the minus and plus sensitivities. I'll link the video I did of sensitivities saving on the Velocity 1 on the Xbox consoles when they first started to save. Now, of course, the extremity dead zone and reactivities are saving. Extremity dead zone, I put it to minus 10%. How's the best way to explain this? As I'm pitching toward me, so pitching up in the aircraft effectively, as I start to get more and more pitch, so if I need to do some extreme pitching, it would become quite jerky and suddenly just jerk upwards, altering your extremity dead zone. So you're basically altering the extreme curves there of the dead zone. It seems to help with that. It makes it less jerky and less sudden as you're pitching, certainly pitching up. Minus 10% seems to work well for me in the Cessna 172 and 152. Play around with this with aircraft like the Kit Fox, for example. If you find that sort of pitching a little bit too extreme, alter that extremity dead zone. You find that it will help and make it less sort of jerky, less sudden as you're pitching. So like I said, minus 10% works for me in the Cessna 172 and 152. I will show you this in a moment. A reactivity of 90% seems to help smooth out the movements when I'm pitching and banking, in fact. Let's go on to my aileron settings now, my aileron axis. So you're banking left and right. Minus 29% in both the minus and plus seems to work well for me there. I've left the extremity dead zone alone. It doesn't seem to have any effect. It seems to be fine in the Cessna 172, 152 for me. Like I said, reactivity of 90% helps to smooth out the movements when I'm banking. Helps to make them more fluid. And I'll show you that in a moment. I'll leave that there for you, so if you want to copy them and play around with them, see how it suits. That seems to suit me for the moment. The only other axis that I have set up, and I've not messed with the reactivity or extremity dead zone, is the pitch, the trim axis, trim wheel. I've just put sensitivity of -16% in both the minus and plus sensitivities. That seems to work well for me with the trim wheel. Let's get back up top there to the main axis that I've messed around with and played with. So like I said, if you want to copy them, try them, you're more than welcome to. Okay, what I'll do now, I'll go for a quick test flight and show you the sensitivity settings in action. Okay, so let's go for this test flight. Live weather, I believe, and live multiplayer. So I'll throttle up, get in the cockpit. Oh, press the right button to get in the cockpit. My settings are slightly different between PC in terms of buttons and the Xbox. Only slightly for the external camera. That's fine. Anyway, let's concentrate on this. So rudder. So I'm going along. Maybe worth putting a bit of reactivity in that rudder. I don't know, it just seems to be okay for me. So let's just pitch up. And we're getting some altitude. Fly towards the centre of London there. And already, as I'm banking left and right there, it just feels more fluid with a little bit of reactivity settings put in there. 90% reactivity. Try it with and without reactivity and see how you fare, but certainly it seems to make the movements more fluid. Let's just do a bit of pitching here, so pitching up and down with the reactivity and the extremity dead zone. As I'm pitching, it seems to be less sudden, certainly in the pitch movements. And that will come more into play, of course, as you pitch into land. So if you're finding it very sudden when you're pitching up, a little bit too sudden, try the extremity dead zone settings. Put it to a minus setting there, and you will see that that should help. So I'm just going to fly around London a little bit, just using those settings. Definitely feels smoother. It's like when they first came in the PC, I think I was using my Logitech Flight Yacht system on the PC. When the reactivity and extremity dead zone first hit, I could notice the difference straight away. And again, I'm noticing the difference on the Velocity 1 on the Xbox console. Absolutely feels a lot better in that respect. Now, I don't need to go too far out. Let's head towards the main banker buildings, the famous landmarks there, the Shard, and the Gherkin, and goodness knows what. I've noticed whenever there's a world update or sim update, maybe because a lot of people are logging on to download, there do seem to be a few problems with rendering in the areas. As you can see, it's still rendering in around me. But we'll ignore that. This flight test is not about that. It's more about the settings I've set up. So there we go. I don't need to make this too long. I'll just turn back 180 degrees towards London City Airport. Gonna have to configure myself for flaps 1 to get to stage 1 flaps quicker, because I'm not that far from the airport at this location. That's okay. And we'll just see how that works with those new settings. There you go. There's the airport ahead of me there, of course. Yeah, it just feels a lot more smoother, a lot more refined. As always, when you start to play with settings, you can start to refine them to where they suit you. And again, depending what aircraft you're flying, you may want to change those reactivity and extremity dead zones to suit the aircraft you're flying. Obviously, with the Cessna, like I've mentioned, the settings suit, as I showed you before, suit me and seem to suit the aircraft that I'm flying here. Let's just get down to, there's the CIS building, was it? Oh, it's the financial sector of London. There we go, go to flaps 1, stage 1 flaps there. And we'll just do some kind of landing. Now, I will be doing my 6 months later review of the Velocity 1. Certainly with a few updates, certainly with the SIP panel, status panel updates with the PC, And just generally, the way the yoke's performing for me now, it's definitely my preferred method of flying. I was switching between the Logitech and the Velocity one, as I still prefer the fluidity of the Logitech flight yoke system, believe it or not. Now, after 6 months, or nearly 6 months, anyway, I'll leave that for my 6 months review. Let's not spoil things there. Let's concentrate on this landing first. So I'll just throttle back a bit there, just to get myself down towards that runway. Should we go to stage 2 flaps? Why not? Compensate for the flare there. And we should be fine. Absolutely fine. I think I can make center line this time. I always seem to be slightly off it. As long as you get near to the center line, it's fine, of course. Good Pappy Light reading there, of course. Start to throttle back a bit now. And then we can try those pitch settings, shall we? Still slightly off that blooming center line again. Oh, there we go. Coming back towards it. And there we go. I'll just pitch and flare. Absolutely no issues. It just seems to have refined the whole experience now. And there we go. We are down. And I can just come off the runway. Raise my flaps. Come off the runway as I'm in live multiplayer. And there we go. Bring it to a halt. So there you go. It's great news, isn't it? All sensitivity settings seem to be saving with the Xbox consoles now. Do let me know your own thoughts and your own settings perhaps in the comments. Give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for many more Flight Simulator videos on their way. And I'll see you soon.